Welcome to Mupdates, your monthly Medfield updates. I'm AUDREY ENSOR, and this episode is all about August 2021. We're covering an update from the school committee, MEMO summer concerts, an update from the Medfield Coalition for Suicide Prevention, and clips from the Selectmen Meetings. We'll start off the show with an update from the school committee.
Hello, my name is Jessica REILLY, and I am the chair of the Medfield School Committee. I'm going to give a little bit of an update on what the beginning of this new school year will look like, some of the results that came out of our school committee meeting last night, which is August 26th. I'd like any parents who are out there, guardians, to know that today, Dr. Marsden intends to send out an email, so that's August 27th, outlining his presentation from last night, which for reopening. The Department of Elementary and Secondary Education Commissioner, Jeff Reilly, went to the Board of Secondary and Elementary Education and asked their permission for support of his masking mandate for all schools in the Commonwealth through October 1st, with a specific goal in mind that that it could extend if it looked as though data trends were not decreasing in the way that it seems that the DPH models are predicting, and that communities that would stop mask use, at least at the 7 to 12 level, for people who can be vaccinated at this point, that vaccination level had to be at 80%. So that being said, we will have masks at least until October 1st, at which point the commissioner will revisit the data and the requirement. In addition to that, kind of tweak some of the original reopening guidance as opposed to a mandate guidance offered by the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, which I will now refer to as DESE. So one of the things that came out with the original guidance was something that we just did not feel made sense to us, which was that lunches could be unmasked with some sort of impunity, right? That we would just kind of hit a pause button on anybody being able to transmit anything anywhere. And so in response to that, in the best way that we can, we will be having, at the very least, Wheelock and Dale, the high school, and Blake eating outside as much as possible. And remember, the mask mandate does not apply to outside, but simply to inside spaces. When that is not possible, we will be having students more spread out into different spaces so that we are not all in each section within the cafeteria. So cafeteria and gym, we'll use separate spaces around. And if you have concerns about, again, any one of those things, those are operational concerns that are really best met at the building principal level, because, and your teachers level, because they're the ones who have eyes on your child all of the time. They are the ones who have been around and are real professionals and have actually dug in and done this for the last year. Other key areas that we addressed last night, transportation. So it is a federal mandate that every child must wear, or actually everyone must wear masks, vaccinated or not, on school buses. You'll also notice that that is the case across all public transportations. Buses will continue to have their windows open, pretty much regardless of weather, so bundle up. We do not have the same spacing mandates that we had at the beginning of the year last year. So this year, and from what I think it was March of last year, we are able to have more children on the bus, and the bus drop-off will go back to the way it was 2 years ago. So we are no longer having that kind of multivaried drop-off spots. One of the things that's really going to help kids stay in school is that we have found, not just us, but data throughout the state and throughout the country, is that children, as long as they are masked and have had the windows open on a bus, there have not been cases of community spread through close contact on buses. So if there is a case that is identified or a positive test that is identified and that child has been on the bus, their seat cohorts, whoever they were sitting next to, behind, and in front of, will not be considered close contacts this year. You will, as parents, you will receive an invitation, which is voluntary but incredibly necessary, and to have your child tested in a pooled test every week through school for free, and the state is funding that for us, which is a great thing. We were part of pilot programs last year. It allowed us to detect if there were cases in school, and it allowed us to really keep kids in school and not have to shut down because we couldn't control community spread, or we were concerned that that community spread would jump to the schools. And it is one of our most important tools. So when you get that form, please fill it out. As part of that, one of the reasons I think last year that people were really concerned about pooled testing, of some people who did, is that there was this really pretty onerous kind of quarantining issue for close contacts. This year we will have close contacts within pooled testing. If we find somebody who is positive, there will be people who are close contacts. However, those students or staff or whomever will not be required to go home for the period of time that they might have to demonstrate symptoms, right? Like last year, you could be out for 5, 7, 10 days. We will continue to in-school test each one of those kids for 5 days after they are identified as a close contact, making sure that we are consistently, every 24 hours, looking to see if that child is in a position in which they have caught the virus and they are in the position of spreading it. On a couple of like minor things, lockers are not going to be used at any grade level. And honestly, many of our kids do not carry around books anymore. Life is in your iPad or your Chromebook or whatever laptop you bring from home. We do not utilize one-way hallways anymore. It wasn't effective, and we are moving closer to normalization. We will not be asking high school students to wipe their desks coming in and going out of their classroom. It just didn't work. I mean, it wasn't necessary, and I think the exposure was more concerning probably at a certain point and the amount of time it just takes than any good it might have ever done. We will continue, however, to do the kind of extreme cleaning measures that we do throughout the day, every day. Wiping doorknobs, wiping surfaces, all of the things that our custodians did so diligently last year. In a note of good news, also, free lunch will continue for the 2021-22 school year. So, like I said, if you have specific questions, you'll be seeing a plan come home. You'll see the policy that we enacted last night to support this kind of rapidly evolving kind of level of what we need to do to keep our kids safe. It's going to be a big year. There's going to be a lot of changes, but as my very wise mother-in-law has always said, the only reality is change. And as very wise Glennon Doyle says, we can do hard things, and we will. We always have. Thank you.
Watch school committee meetings on medfield.tv/watch or on our YouTube page, Medfield TV. We also have a podcast for your convenience. Listen on medfield.tv/listen, as well as on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. The MEMO Summer Concert Series finished up this month. Here are some clips from the August concerts.
On behalf of MEMO, some of you are new to town, I know, so you may not have heard who MEMO is. It's our local business organization. When it was set up about 40 years ago, we were determined not to be called a Chamber of Commerce. So they came up with the name Medfield Employers and Merchants Organization. Local businesses in town get together and we do some fun things. We do networking when it's nice to do dinner meetings. And we do a lot of volunteer stuff and put on things in town. We do the flags in town. You've seen them up and down the street. We do the lights at Baxter Park. We do the Christmas parade that has Santa Claus come. We do the summer concert series. We put on Medfield Day, among other things. And we also give 3 scholarships to the high school graduating class. So we do a lot for the community, and we enjoy giving back to the community. If anybody is new to the area or not, and has a business in town or out of your house, come up to the memo table, get a brochure, find out a little bit about what we do, talk to somebody. We'd love to have you visit as a guest to our next dinner meetings and check us out. But it's about 70 or 80 members at any given time. We have a lot of fun in Medfield, and that's what MEMO is all about.
Good evening. I am so glad, I should say we are so glad you guys are here. We had one of those days checking the weather on our phones every 30 seconds probably. And I'm so glad we are all here. Thanks for coming out. Hopefully, because we were stuck inside all day, we're in the mood to sing and dance and have fun. All right, well, we want to thank you guys for coming out tonight, especially with the weather. We are the Stacy Peasley Band. Please come see us again. Find us on social media, Facebook, Instagram. Keep in touch. We do this a lot, and we'd love to see you guys again. We still have a bunch of shows left this summer. Really close, too. So we hope you guys will join our mailing list, stacypeasley.com, and have a great summer.
Hello, Medfield. We're the Grass Gypsies. So glad to be here for the summer concert series. Happy to say we've been here for a little less than a decade, actually, playing music on. So glad to be back. Glad to be here. Thank you, everybody! Have an amazing rest of your summer! We love you to say hi to us! Have a good night! Thank you!
Thank you, MEMO, for putting on another summer concert series. You can view this summer's concerts on medfield.tv/watch or on our YouTube channel, Medfield TV. Coming up in September, the Medfield Coalition for Suicide Prevention has some plans for National Suicide Prevention Month. Here's an update from them.
We're from the Medfield Coalition for Suicide Prevention. This is an initiative of the Medfield Foundation and is administered by Medfield Outreach. My name is Chelsea GOLDSTEIN-WALSH. I'm a clinician at Medfield Outreach and part of the Medfield Coalition for Suicide Prevention.
Hi, I'm Anna Mae O'Shea Brooke, and I am also a member of the Medfield Coalition for Suicide Prevention, and I'm a mother of 4. I'm a school committee member, and I also am on the coalition. I'm representing St. Edward the Confessor Parish. We're coming up on September. I can't believe the summer has gone by. September is actually Suicide Awareness Month, and as a coalition, we've committed ourselves to promote emotional and mental well-being, and also raise awareness and reduce stigma and educate the community in helping end suicide. And with that, we've got some events this September.
We do. So as you can see, Anna Mae is wearing, and we have some purple and teal lights behind us. The colors of Suicide Prevention Month are purple and turquoise, and we use those colors to help raise awareness and bring light to the importance of mental health and wellness for our community. So some of the initiatives that we're doing during the month of September involve hanging purple ribbons and hanging purple lights in businesses and organizations around the center of town. We're hoping that it sparks conversation and sparks some interest and just reminds people, again, to take a moment to check in with themselves and their loved ones about their mental health and to engage in conversations about mental health.
We've got a film screening called My Ascension, which is a journey with a young woman who attempted, and it's a very powerful documentary. And so we're going to be screening that at the Medfield High School Auditorium on Wednesday, September 29th at 7 p.m. And we're going to have a Google form to reserve a spot so we know for numbers, etc. However, with that screening, we're also going to have a panel discussion to follow because it is very heavy material, and people are going to be feeling a lot of emotions and also have a lot of questions to ask. And we're so fortunate to have Jim McCauley of Riverside Community Care and also Nadja Riley from Interface, and most likely Chelsea and Kathy McDonald of Medfield Outreach, perhaps?
Definitely Kathy.
Okay.
I don't know if I'll be there.
Yes.
I don't know if I'll be on the panel, but Kathy
Yes.
will be there as the
Yes.
director of Medfield Outreach.
Yes. And then also on September 26th, we're so fortunate to have Tracy Buckley of Medfield Yoga Studio. And this will be her third or fourth, maybe fourth or fifth, yoga on the turf.
Our coalition will be at Medfield Day as well on Saturday, September 25th. We co-host a booth with the Medfield Cares About Prevention Coalition, which is focused on mental health and substance use prevention. So Medfield Outreach, Medfield Coalition for Suicide Prevention, and Medfield Cares About Prevention will all be kind of jointly hosting a double booth, number 46 and 47 on Frary Street. So if you're around that day, feel free to stop by, get some resources. We'll have some collaborative art project for community members to contribute to and participate in. And we'll have some games for kids, which is always a hit. And we just really want to provide resources for those who are interested, and also just help raise awareness and start the conversation again about just self-care and wellness, stress reduction, all things that contribute to a healthy brain and a healthy body. Those are our main initiatives. So we're hoping that people, again, will participate in an event or at least notice some of the lights and ribbons around town, and remember to focus on mental health. It's just as important as physical health, and hopefully the more that we talk about mental health, the more we can reduce the stigma and feel that our community is more connected, that we care, and that we want people to reach out when they're struggling. There's a lot of resources available to the Medfield community to support their mental health. Medfield Outreach, that's where I work, we're always available to help meet the needs of Medfield residents in a variety of ways, including providing mental health counseling, connecting people to resources, getting people some financial assistance, and also coordinating, obviously, these prevention programs. We also, as the Medfield community, have a contract with the Interface Referral Service, which I brought this little card. Hopefully you've seen these around town, but it's basically a concierge therapy matching service that takes away all of the hassle of trying to find a provider, because for anyone who's tried to do that before, you might know that it's very, it can be very stressful and time consuming. And so this resource is available to Medfield residents who are looking for a therapist or a psychiatrist, either for themselves or a family member. They call the number, they provide information about what they're looking for, and they get specifically tailored referrals to meet their needs, and that's a turnaround time of max 2 weeks. So it's been really helpful. We've had this in our community for the past several years, and we're hoping that more people are aware of it so that they can get connected to the treatment they deserve. Another way to get in contact with us is to follow us on social media. Medfield Coalition for Suicide Prevention has a Facebook page, and Medfield Outreach has Facebook, Twitter, and now Instagram. So check us out, follow us for updated information and upcoming events.
Medfield TV will be putting up purple lights in support of this initiative. Thanks to MCSP for all you do in town. Now we have a few clips from the topics that were covered at Board of Selectmen meetings in August.
All right, now we'll return to the two Hinckley South documents. And Pete will recuse himself. And so I just had one edit on each document, and otherwise I'm prepared to vote to approve them. And it was the same edit with respect to the setbacks and the distances from the property lines. And so what I would change is on page 2, under the description of the project, it currently states the parties here to acknowledge that the specific design plans and site plans are not established as of the date hereof. Notwithstanding, the buyer will, to the extent feasible, construct all buildings, roadways, and other improvements with the minimum setbacks from property lines showed on the concept plan dated June 9th. And I would delete to the extent feasible and add in at the end, and will, to the extent feasible, seek to increase the distance from abutting property lines up to a maximum of 150 feet. And I would make the same change in paragraph 3 of the memorandum of understanding.
I would just reiterate that the abutting neighbors have said that they would support this proposal if there was a 150-foot buffer between the buildings and the lot line, and that has not been recommended by this board or the Affordable Housing Trust Board. Basically, what is happening here is that density in excess of the zoning at 4 to 5 times the zoning is being put into an existing neighborhood. And the neighbors have said that they would support that if there was a sufficient buffer. Our fellow residents on the Select Board and on the Affordable Housing Trust Board have not seen fit to put that into their recommendations. And the neighbors would appreciate that inclusion of the 150-foot buffer.
We have some laws that are pushing us in a direction. We have, because of that, some objectives of the town to achieve 40B housing. Within those priorities, if abutters want something and we can find a way to get them as much of it as we can, we try. In this instance, my feeling is that's what we did when we went through the drill to rezone, redesignate the land to give at least part of that. Now, I understand that's not what all of the abutters are going to be happy with. I would point out that of the buildings that are there, there's only a couple of them that actually encroach that close, and there's only a couple of the abutters that even are going to be affected by that. So I hear what you're saying, and I've heard some lengthy discussions from your neighbor about this as well. I can say I think we've tried to do it. We've tried to accommodate as much of it as sincerely as we can, but I think what your neighbors are looking for is one that probably would radically change the project because there wouldn't be room to do it. And so I think we've made the right decision here. Okay, I move that we vote to approve the land disposition agreement and the memorandum of understanding for the Hinckley South project with the change to paragraph 4, section 4 of the land disposition agreement and paragraph 3 of the memorandum of understanding for the Hinckley South project to be made prior to signing.
Aye, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. All right. And that is it for our
Do you want
agenda.
the next one? The support the Hinckley South project submittal?
Oh, yeah. Okay, sorry.
So I move that we vote to support the Hinckley South project submittal to the Massachusetts Department of Housing and Community Development as a local initiative program project for a 24-unit age-restricted 62-plus development subject to final purchase and sales agreement, and with the revision on the reported vote as 2 to nothing, with one selectman abstaining, recused, not abstaining, recused, and authorize the chair to sign the LIP application and submit a letter of support to DHCD.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that passes as well.
We as a warrant committee and then us as a subcommittee have decided that the best way to try to tackle the future upcoming article for the special town meeting was to have some just conversations with who we have kind of listed as the stakeholders in this. And so you, of course, are on this list. The SBC, the school committee, and Dale at Dale, and the other elementary school PAC are also on our list. So you get the pleasure of being the first one so we can have the dry run together. We wanted this to be pretty casual from the standpoint, we just wanted to maybe ask some questions that we all have, and we also wanted to find out from you, what are the questions that you are getting from townspeople that you think that we should be looking at most while we're kind of going through this process. Because our intention is to make sure as much as possible all the questions that are out there in the town have factual based answers for them to be able to make their own decision. So that's kind of our goal. I just wanted to ask more of like a general process question, because I do think that there is some confusion out there already as to what exactly we're going to be voting on at the town meeting. So I thought it would be helpful just to not necessarily have a very, very long discussion about it, but I have heard some people say that they think when they're coming to town meeting that they're going to be choosing between Wheelock and Dale, and I would like to just kind of confirm what you as selectmen who are going to be determining the warrant, what exactly people are going to be voting on. And then I know the answer to that question, but I just wanted to put that out there. And then I would, as a subset to that, if it passes, clearly the school moves forward and things goes on. But then what then is the process if it fails?
Well, I mean, I think the article will be an up or down vote on the building as proposed, as is typically the case. I think that's what the warrant article will be. I think as to what happens if it fails, I think to Bob's bit of history before, I think it depends, right? If it fails by 2 votes, then you have an option to revote it. I think if it fails clearly, I think then we're somewhat back to the drawing board, right? I don't think it's as simple as saying, well, we'll go build the new building at Dale, because I think to the cost point, Gus, if the cost is dispositive, I don't think we're going to get this exact same building for $15 million left by building it someplace else, right? You could probably agree with that.
Yeah.
So we're going to have a series of trade-offs at that point, and I think I think it's a longer discussion than simply redesigning another building in a different location and putting it there. In terms of the trade-off between, all right, from the Band-Aid approach, we decided to do a Band-Aid approach in the building and say, what does it cost to get us another 10, 15 years out of what we have now? And then we revisit at that point. That's one potential alternative. And then you could look at, all right, to your point, if the conclusion is it was just too expensive, what does it look like to get a building that's under whatever the number is that we decide is the affordable amount? And then is it worth it to spend that, right? I mean, because part of it is, let's say you got to a $50 million town contribution, but if the $50 million bill, for whatever reason, putting us, all the educational program, and I can't speak to the details of the educational program, but that's a judgment for the school committee to make. But if you got to 50% of the educational program for 80% of the cost, is that really worth it? As opposed to getting to, again, this is called faux precision. You can't actually measure 50% of an educational program, but so I'm using faux precision. Just like when we get these construction estimates, it's like $58,178,348. Like, oh, tremendous. Accurate, clearly like precise job that person has done. So it's faux precision, but I think that's part of it too. In other words, with the Band-Aid for 10% of the cost gets you 48% of the educational program. Maybe that's the way to go. So I think it's a longer discussion at that point. Based on where everybody lands and what else happens. So I don't think it's as simple as saying, well, then we're just going to immediately pivot. All right, let's just build, the only issue was the site, and so we're going to pivot to the other location, because if it's cost, that's a much broader discussion, and to me, I think in some ways it's an educational policy discussion and what that building looks like, and that's where I'm both out of my official position and that I've got no role there, and out of my depth in terms of being an educator to say, what would the education program look like in a building for that amount of money?
Watch the full Board of Selectmen meetings on medfield.tv/watch or on our YouTube page, Medfield TV. We also have a podcast for your convenience. Listen on medfield.tv/listen, as well as on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. To stay up to date with all things Medfield, be sure to like Medfield TV on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram, @Medfield TV. Lastly, don't forget to tune in to our cable stations, channels 8, 12, and 22 on Comcast, and channels 36, 45, and 47 on Verizon. That's it for the August 2021 episode. See you next month for another episode of Mupdates, your monthly Medfield updates.